Polish President Andrzej Duda and Polish Prime Minister Donald Tusk have traveled to the United States to meet with U.S. President Joe Biden at the White House tomorrow. The talks are expected to focus on security in our part of Europe, the current situation of NATO, the future expansion of the alliance, including Ukraine, as well as Polish-American cooperation or Polish arms purchases in the U.S. Our special correspondent, Aleksander Wierzejski, is in Washington, D.C.
Today, the chief executive officer in Poland is Szymon Hołownia, the speaker of the Sejm, because both President Andrzej Duda and Prime Minister Donald Tusk are traveling to Washington, D.C., when tomorrow, on March 12th, they are supposed to meet with the President Joe Biden. The meeting occurs in the anniversary of Poland joining the NATO treaty that happened on March 12, 1999 in the Independence, Missouri. But that's only the pretext of the meeting. The real question marks are arising around the new coalition policy towards the United States, towards the Atlantic security, the rearmament of the Polish army, as well as industrial policy. The Westinghouse signed agreement on construction of first Polish nuclear plant. The Intel is about to build a microchip factory in Poland, and all that investments and all that issues are in question by the new government, and we do not hear the clear answers, yes or no. Aleksander Wierzejski, Washington, D.C., Poland Daily.
Before flying overseas, Polish President Andrzej Duda convened a meeting of the National Security Council. He stressed that Poland is a responsible member of NATO, spending as much as 4% of GDP on defence. According to the President, spending at a level of at least 3% should be the responsibility of every member of the alliance. And he will raise this at the White House. What else could the talks be about? I hope that NATO will be able to make these bold decisions and admit Ukraine to NATO in the near future. We all know that this is very difficult today, but we, from our Polish point of view, knowing the history and the specifics of our eastern neighbour, and I'm not talking here about Ukraine, we know that the admission of Ukraine to NATO is necessary in order to give an additional guarantee to preserve security and peace in our part of Europe. Shortly after the meeting, the President went to Okęcie military airport, from where he flew off with his delegation to the United States. According to media reports, Poland is expected to demand an increase in the presence of US troops, as well as the amount of military equipment transferred to the Ukrainian army. An important point in the talks is the issue of continuing contracts for the purchase of American armaments.
Będzie nam zademonstrowany najnowszy model czołgu Abrams, jak również i helikopter Apache.
The latest model of the Abrams tank will be demonstrated to us, as well as the Apache helicopter. This is in connection with the planned deliveries to Poland of more Abrams tanks and a future contract, I hope, that will be signed for the supply to Poland of attack helicopters, Apache, the best American helicopters in the world.
Śmigłowców Apache, śmigłowców szturmowych, najlepszych na świecie śmigłowców amerykańskich.
Polish President Andrzej Duda will meet the President of the United States, Joe Biden. Prime Minister Donald Tusk will also be attending the meeting. Biden has invited the Polish leaders to the White House in connection with the 25th anniversary of Poland's accession to NATO. I differ politically with President Andrzej Duda on almost everything, but on the security of our homeland, we must and will act together, and not only during this visit to the United States.
Ten dzień ma pokazać
The day is meant to show unity around NATO, and I would like to note that the Polish President will meet both in the Senate and in the House of Representatives, the majority and the minority, Republicans and Democrats. In 6 months, the United States will hold presidential elections, most likely between the former President Donald Trump and the incumbent President Joe Biden. The presence of Polish leaders is also important in terms of future elections. It is going to be a very even fight in the case of the presidential election, and any, even a few thousand votes in Michigan or Wisconsin, where Poles live, and they are passable states, could be decisive. President Joe Biden's administration likely wants to send a strong message of support to Central European allies. As to how much the United States is ready to defend them, that the United States is ready to assist them in this difficult geopolitical situation.
Wspomóc ich w tej trudnej geopolitycznej sytuacji.
The 25th anniversary of Poland's accession to NATO coincided with Sweden's admission to the alliance on the 7th of March. Sweden became the 32nd member of the organisation. On the 12th of March 1999, Poland became a full member of NATO. Along with Poland, Hungary and the Czech Republic also joined the alliance. At 8 p.m, President Andrzej Duda is scheduled to deliver a solemn address in connection with the 25th anniversary of Poland's accession to NATO, the world's largest defensive alliance. The Swedish flag was raised at NATO headquarters on Monday for the first time since the country officially joined the alliance. Sweden became NATO's newest member when it deposited its instrument of accession to the North Atlantic Treaty Organization with the United States in Washington last Thursday.
Sweden's accession shows again that NATO's door remains open. No one can close it. Every nation has the right to choose its own path, and we all choose the path of freedom and democracy. The brave people of Ukraine are fighting for these values as we speak. For 75 years, the transatlantic bond between Europe and North America has ensured our freedom and security. As a friend and a Nordic neighbor, it gives me great pride that Sweden now joins us in this essential mission. Today, as we raise the Swedish flag, we stand together in unity and solidarity, committed to protect and defend each other, all for one and one for all. So to all Swedes, I say, velkommen til NATO, welcome to NATO.
We are now an ally among allies. After more than 200 years of military non-alignment, this is a historic step, but also a very natural step. We've been preparing for decades and in details for the last 2 years. With this membership, Sweden has come home. Home to the security cooperation of democracies, home to the security cooperation of our good neighbors. Today, I'd like to say thank you to all of our allies. We have chosen you, and you have chosen us. All for one, one for all.
Sweden's Crown Princess Victoria led a delegation at a short, rainy ceremony outside the Glass and Steel headquarters on the outskirts of Brussels, at which the Swedish national anthem was played. Sweden will benefit from the alliance's common defence guarantee, under which an attack on one member is regarded as an attack on all. An American man was sentenced to life in prison by a German court on Monday for the rape and murder of a tourist and the attempted murder of her friend, both from the United States, in a brutal attack near the country's most famous tourist destination, Neuschwanstein Castle. The jury court sentenced the defendant to life in prison for murder and rape of the murdered victim and for the attempted murder and grievous bodily harm against the surviving victim.
Versuchten Mordes und gefährliche Körperverletzung bezüglich des überlebenden Opfers. Hier war nur
In this case, only a life sentence could be imposed, as murder calls for life imprisonment.
lebenslang vorsieht. Eine Sicherungsverwahrung war nicht anzuordnen.
Preventative detention was not ordered for very clear reasons. An expert witness did not establish a propensity to commit similar offences at any available opportunity.
Gelegenheit, ähnliche Straftaten zu begehen.
The judge at the court in Kempten, southern Germany, noted that the crime of the 31-year-old tourist from Michigan was one of particular gravity, a finding that means that the perpetrator will not receive automatic parole after 15 years, as is the case for non-aggravated murder. The conviction may be appealed when the man, known only as Troy B., can apply to serve his sentence in the United States, although his lawyer said he had advised the defendant not to do so since conditions of detention in Germany were better. As things stand now, our client will have to serve his sentence in the prison in the German city of Straubing if the judgment becomes final, as it has been established that there is a severe gravity of guilt. And if it stays that way, our client will have to spend 15 years in Germany before he is extradited. This would and could only be different if the United States itself were to submit a corresponding extradition request or if our client were to do so. We have, of course, advised our client not to do this. Neuschwanstein Castle, about 105 kilometers southwest of Munich, is one of the most popular tourist destinations in Europe, attracting some 1.4 million visitors each year. Portuguese were worried on Monday after a tight result in Sunday's general election that left it unclear who would lead the country. Portugal's centre-right Democratic Alliance won the snap election. Its leader, Luís Montenegro, said that it was unclear whether he could govern without the support from far-right Chega, with whom he again refused to negotiate. These are complicated results because if we are without a government, with a limited government in place, now with these elections, we don't really know what we're going to end up with. The results are very tight. There isn't a majority on the left, there isn't a majority on the right. There are still 4 audit makers missing from outside Portugal, so it's very difficult to guess what's coming. We know that left-wing and right-wing policies are very different for the country, but we don't know who will be in charge of the country. What happened yesterday is that the right has become much stronger, and yet I think the country has to function, regardless of whether it is the right or the left. It has to work. I am a Brazilian migrant. There are a lot of migrants, yes, but I don't agree that migrants don't help Portugal. I think that the far right has little or nothing to offer the country. I think maybe some people are unhappy with the PS and PSD. We must realise that the party Chega, even though there are now 40 people, has only one head, only one person who really shows their face to the party. Chega's parliamentary representation more than quadrupled to at least 48 lawmakers in the 230-seat legislature, giving the combined right a majority. The result underscores a political tilt to the far right across Europe. Portugal, which only returned to democracy after the fall of a fascist dictatorship 50 years ago, had long been considered immune to the rise of right-wing populism across the continent, which is expected to result in gains for far-right parties in the European elections in June. Issues dominating the campaign in Western Europe's poorest country include a crippling housing crisis, low wages, sagging healthcare and corruption, seen by many as endemic to the mainstream parties.